sibe phansi uma futhi kunomuntu owasiletha kwenzeka kanjani. And someone brought it. Who was it?
Who brought it?
Ubani oweza naso uma ngabe kunomuntu oweza naso kwakuubani?
Ngokusho kwalo mama esasihamba naye uMakhumalo wathi esalaba abantu abebezohlasela lapha.
According to Makhumalo, she alleged that it belonged to the people who came to attack there.
So the question is, I'm not sure if you answered it. Is it Makhumalo who brought the cap, the hat? Is it Makhumalo who brought the hat?
Bringing it where?
To show the witness, and then it was put on the floor, or it was the cap on the floor?
Wawuphansi vele noma uMakhumalo oweza naso isigqoko kwazonikhombisa sabekwa phansi futhi noma sasikuphi?
Sasiphansi isigqoko. uMakhumalo wasitshena ukuthi esalaba abantu bebezohlasela la esomunye wabo.
The head was on the floor. Makhumalo informed us that it belonged to one of the people or to one of those who came to attack.
It is correct that, I stand to be corrected, that when you testified yesterday, you said the head was in the dining room. Or what? Where?
There is no such evidence on record, with the greatest of respect.
Yes.
Okay, Your Lordship, but let me leave that question. When you arrived for the first time, where were the family members when at the scene of crime? Except Mr. Themba Khumalo.
Kathi nifika okokuqala abomndeni babekuphi ngaphandleni kwakhe uThemba?
Kwathi base baphuthume esibhedlela.
He alleged that they had rushed to the hospital.
Okay, thank you. When you arrived for the second time, where were the family members?
Kathi senibuya
Except Mr. Khumalo.
Kathi senibuya ke okwesibili babekuphi?
Ngisase sibuya naye lo mama lo. Uye wayekhona sibuya naye uthini. Kwakungakabikho umuntu sekhona yena uThemba.
There was no one yet because when we came back with Makhumalo and Themba was the one who was there.
Thank you. And after you arrived at the scene by the house, after how many minutes did Sergeant Musia arrive?
Umsiya uzofika emuva kwemizuzu emingaki nifikile nina endlini?
Kwathatha isikhashanyana khona noma ngasakhumbula ukuthi how many minutes kodwa kwaba isikhathi ukuthi afike because kwakuzomela ukuthi siqale sifonele thina iCSC then iCSC bese iphinda ifonela bona le.
It took a little while, although I can't be exact and say how long it took, because upon our arrival, we would have had to call the CSC, and then the CSC would contact them.
Did he arrive before you make your statement or after you made your statement?
Umsiya wafika ngaphambilini kokuthi usenze istatement sakho noma emuva kokuthi usenzile?
Nginokusibhala istatement bese ngishiya la makumele ngifake ama role player khona. So ngase ngiyibhalile lokhu okunye sekusotha nje ukuthi ngisho ukuthi kufike ubani nobani nobani.
When you write a statement, or I write a statement, and then I leave out the portion where it involves the role players, and then when they arrive, it's only then that I include that so and so arrived.
Did your statement got commissioned before Musia arrived at the scene or after Musia arrived?
Ukomishina kwaso-ke kwenziwa ngaphambilini kokuthi afike umsiya noma emuva kokuthi umsiya sefikile?
Why seyifikile mase ngisicommission?
When it was commissioned, he had already arrived.
Thank you, sir. So your statement was commissioned 10 o'clock, correct?
So sa commissioner ngo 10.
Angazi noma nginga explain yini indaba ye commissioner lapha naleso sikhathi esiwu10.
I don't know whether I'm able to explain, my lord, with regards to the commissioning as well as the time 10 o'clock.
I don't have a problem for you to explain, but yesterday you testified that you commissioned it at 10 o'clock. You can explain.
Anginankinga-ke nawe ngokuthi uchazeke, kodwa-ke izolo kubufakazi bakho uthe ucommissioner kwaso kwenziwa ngo-10.
No, kuyisikhathi engaqala ngaso ukubhala istatement sami.
No, 10 is the time when I started to write my statement.
Sir, remember yesterday when you were giving your statement, in order for you to look at it, because you didn't recall the time, and you said it was commissioned at 10.
Uyakhumbula izolo nkathi unikezwa istatement sakho ukuthi usibhekeke ngoba ubungasikhumbuli isikhathi wase uthi-ke ucommissioner kwaso kwenziwa ngo-10.
Yeah, ngiyakhumbula.
Yes, I do remember.
So it means that Sergeant Musia arrived before 10, according to you, as you commissioned the statement at 10.
Uma-ke sithatha lokho kushoyo-ke kusho ukuthi lokho uSergeant Msiya wafika ngaphambi ko-10 ngoba wena istatement sakho sa-commissioner ngo-10.
According to you, that Sergeant arrived before 10.
Uma nje sithatha lokho okushiwo kuwena-ke ukuthi akubeke uMsiya wafika phambi ko-10.
Yena wayeseshayile u10.
It was already after 10.
You know, I'm sorry for you ask you this long question, but I have a reason why. Because Sergeant Musia told the court that he arrived after 12 p.m.
Ngoba-ke uSergeant Msiya yena-ke kuba ubufakazi utshelele enkantolo ukuthi yena wafika emuva ko-12. Okay.
Because you further testify that there was no one in the house, but Sergeant Musia testified that when he arrived, he suggested that the family members move into another bedroom.
Wena-ke ngoba ubufakazi uthe ngathi nifika kwakungenamuntu, kodwa-ke yena-ke uMsiya uthe wathi uma ngaba efika wabacela abomndeni ukuthi abaye kwelinye ikamera.
Umsiya wafica thina endlini. Ifamily ifika mayefika uMsiya kwafika obrigadier Ndlovu with the provincial or tactical team.
Okay, when Msiya arrived, he found us in the house, and then Brigadier Ndlovu as well as this now where the provincial team arrived.
Ungakabi nesikhathi esingakanani ke uMsiya efikile kwafika le team. That is when uMsiya, I think Captain Zwane wayesasabhizi safuna ukumtshengisa izinto ezithile ezini.
Okay. It was not long after Msiya had arrived and then the team arrived, and at that time Captain Zwane still wanted to show him things. Yebo.
Then thina sacela ukuthi we can be excused, then kuzoqhubeka nayo team iphathi.
Then we were then requested, or we were then told that we could now be excused. The team was now going to take over.
I think if family abisifika ke lapho ngobuningi bayo.
I think that is when the family then arrived in their numbers.
But mina angiyibonanga ifamily, angibazi ke nabantu bakhona, angazi noma babe khona ngaphandle, angibazi.
I didn't see the family, and the other thing is I don't know the family members. I don't know whether they were outside because I don't know them.
Sir, I don't want to prolong this cross-examination. I think I will reserve some of the meat to advocate for accused number 5. The reason why I'm asking you this question because it is Sergeant Musia who testified that when he arrived, he found the family members in the house, which was a crime scene. Hence, he suggests that they must move in another house, in another room, and also there were children there.
Angifisi-ke ukuthi ngenze nje okude-ke eminye imibuzo ngizoyiyekela-ke kummeli kaMmangalelwa Wesihlanu, kodwa-ke imbangela ukuthi ngikubuze lo mbuzo ngoba uMsiya kwaba ubufakazi wathi-ke wafica ke ifamily ikhona lapho wabe seyicela ke ukuthi ayiye kwelinye ikamera ngoba kwakuyi crime scene leyo.
Actually ngase ngingasekho ke mina lapho.
It means that I was not there anymore, or I was not there at that time when he did that.
Yes.
If you recall, in your testimony, you said when you arrived first time, the head and the projectile were there. Actually, not the projectile. You said the head and the crash were there. Correct?
Ubufakazi bakho ushilo ke ukuthi nkathi nifika okokuqala isigqoko kanye nayo icrash zazikhona lapho.
Yebo zazikhona.
That's correct?
That was only things you saw, say?
Izokuphela izinto wayibona lezo,
Amakani.
as well as the cans.
Okay, thank you, yes. The cans. So, I put it to you that, according to you, when you arrived, there was no blood.
Ngokusho kwakho ke ukuthi nkathi nifika
According to your
nina
testimony.
igazi lalingekho.
Yegazi yazi salibona kahle sesibuye kwesithu ukuthi likhona but akusiyigazi ukuthi uthiwa nje ma dots nje egazi ayekho.
With regards to the blood, we saw the blood when we came back for the second time, and it was not to say that it was a blood, but some just spots of blood here and there.
Where did you see the blood?
Kwakukuphi nendawo?
Ngathi ayese dining room or between dining room and naleli kitchen lakhona le.
Between the dining room and the kitchen.
Yes.
Where in the dining room?
Kuphi nendawo khona dining room?
Phansi.
On the floor?
It's fine, sir, on the floor. Where precisely? Where precisely on the floor? Let's say this court is a dining room. Where precisely? Which side of the dining room and where?
Kuphi khona siyakuzwa ke uthi kuse dining room asithi ke le gumbi esikulona ke kuse dining room kuphi asithi ngakuluphi uhlangothi.
Let me lead you, if the court is a cross-examination anyway. Behind what and where?
Emuva kwani mhlasimbe kuphi?
Uma ungena lapha ufika ungena ekitchen then uma ujikela ngapha kwa right sekuyi sitting room ini dining room. Khona nje lapho phansi.
If you go inside the house, you go in through the kitchen, and then as you turn right, you go to the dining room. So that just there on the floor.
So there's no blood in the kitchen?
Ekitchen lalingekho.
Noma ngingasenaso isiqiniseko sakhona kodwa engalibona ngathi yolo lamadosi khona lapho mawujikela lapha edining room.
Although I'm not certain about that, but the blood that I can remember are the spots that I referred to in the dining room.
No further question, Your Lordship. I'd just like to inform the court, I just got the transcript today, Your Lordship.
Come again?
We just got them the transcript today. They were returned to the sender.
Advocate Chololo.
Thank you, my lord. Mr. Mteto, let's get this properly now. What was your highest standard of education when you attended the crime scene?
Nkathi sorry nkathi uya lapha yana ngaleli langa kule ndawo yesehlakalo ngokwesikole wawufunde wayophela kuphi noma wafinyelela kuphi make ama qualification
Ngizama ukuphendula kahle angiboni ukuthi kuzosizana ukufunda kwami nokungafundi kwami kuleli cala khona kuzongisiza.
I'm trying to answer properly. I don't see as to how it's going to assist us, as to how my level of education is going to assist us in this matter. Is it going to assist us?
Can you answer the question, please?
Sicela uphendule umbuzo. I have answered.
Yes. Mr. Mteto, when questions are asked, you answer them. If you don't know, you say, I don't know. If you don't want to answer, you say, I don't want to answer. We should not waste time.
Uma ngabe ke ubuzwa umbuzo ke uyawuphendula ke uma ngabe ungawazi usho ukuthi awazi uma ngabe une uthi kuyisifiso sakho ke ukuthi awufisi uphendula usho ke ekuthini nje kunokuthi nje uchitha isikhathi.
Ngithanda ukuphendula. Angithanda ukuphendula.
I would like not to answer it.
And how many years of experience in the SAPS did you have when you attended the crime scene?
Ngaleli langa ke uya khona kuyona ke i-crime scene awuse unesikhathi esingakanani usebenzela amaphoyisa?
Ngineminyaka
5 years.
Can you speak aloud, please?
Ngiyacela ukuthi uphumele phezulu.
Ngineminyaka 5.
I had 5 years of experience.
And did I get it correct that your rank was constable?
Isikhundla sakho kwaku constable.
Yebo.
Yes.
And now are you still a constable?
Use uyena namanje uconstable?
Cha.
No.
What's your rank now?
Sithinike isikhundla sakho manje?
Sergeant.
I'm a sergeant.
So when you attended the crime scene, you were a junior officer because you were 5 years.
Wawuyi junior officer ngoba uneminyaka eyi5 usemaphoyiseni ngaleso sikhathi leso.
Yebo.
Yes.
And then you said you attended the crime scene together with Constable Matebula. Am I correct?
Uthe wawuhamba noMathebula ngaleli langa?
Yebo.
That's correct.
What was his rank?
Yena ke esakhe isikhundla noma irank yayithini?
Naye kwaku constable.
He was also a constable.
So this crime scene was attended by 2 constables.
Kusho ukuthi le crime scene lena ke kwaya ama constable amabili.
Yebo.
Yes.
And then you said, okay, can you just rephrase, my lord? You know, Mr. Mtetwa, I want us to tell us the level of experience and qualifications you had at that time, so that we can be able to see if you were able to attend the crime scene or whether you were a competent person to attend the crime scene. We know your rank now. Did you have any other qualification regarding the attendance of the crime scene?
I think that's about 3 questions. Can you break them down, please? That's very long. Can you break them down?
Did you have any qualifications regarding the crime scene?
Ngalesa sikhathi ke ngaba ama qualification wawunawo akuvumelayo ukuthi ungaya kuyona I-crime scene.
Not allowing, regarding just knowledge, additional knowledge, qualifications regarding
yini?
crime scene.
Ay ngokutrainwa kwami lesiphoyiseni babe ngifundisile ukuthi ngiattenda kanjani I-crime scene.
According to how I was taught and how I was trained at the police, in the police, I was told as to how to attend to a crime scene.
Okay, in that training, what did you have? Did you have a certificate, a diploma, or 1 week training? What type of the training they've offered you?
Bakunikezani ke noma watholani kuleyo training I-certificate, I-diploma?
Angithi mawuqeda ukutrain esiphoyiseni uthola i-certificate sakho.
Once you have completed your training in the police, you get your certificate.
So what did they give you
Bakunikani ke
when you completed that training?
eqedeni kwakho ke I-training leyo.
Certificate sesiphoyisa ukuthi ngiqeqeshiwe ukuba leyiphoyisa.
A certificate of competency in the police that I had been trained.
Okay. So, in other words, you knew what was expected of you to do at the crime scene.
Kusho ukuthi ke wawazi ukuthi yini eyayilindeleke kuwena ukuthi kufanele ukuthi wenzeni kwi-crime scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Furthermore, you testified that it was 2 of you who attended the crime scene. Do you still maintain that?
Usasho ke
For the
namanje
first time, it was you, Mtetwa and Matebula, who arrived first at the crime scene.
you Mthethwa and Matebula. Okay. Kwakuwena ne ushilo koqala ukuthi noma usamile kulento oyikhulumile eqala ukuthi koqala nje nifika lapho kwakuwena noMathebula kusho ukuthi nani babili ngenkathi nifika lapha yana usamile kulokho.
Yebo kwakuyimina noMathebula.
That is correct. It was myself and Matebula.
And at all reasonable time, before the other police arrived, it was only 2 of you.
Futhi ngaso sonke isikhathi ngaphambilini kokuthi kufika amanye amaphoyisa kwakuyinina nababili nje kuphela. Ngaphambilini kokuthi kufika abanye kwakuyinina nje kuphela ababekhona noma ababelapha yana kwi-crime scene. Ngaphambi kokuthi kufika amanye
abangamaphoyisa.
Yes.
Yebo kwakuyithina.
That is correct. It was the 2 of us.
Do you know Constable Mark Sibia,
Uyamazi uConstable Mark Sibia
who was a student constable?
waye student constable yenake.
Yebo sengamkhumbula ngamazi.
Yes, I remember him now. I know him.
Yeah, he made a statement and he said he attended the crime scene. He received.
Mr. Mtetwa, yeah, I realize it maybe you don't hear yourself. Your voice is very low. I'm struggling to hear you.
Ukukhulumela phansi ke mfethu.
So try to raise it.
Yacela ukuthi ukhuphule nje ukukhuluma.
The other thing that may happen if you continue at that volume is that what you are saying may not get recorded, and it causes a problem when transcription is done and when other issues are probed, which should be on the record.
Lokho ke kuzobangela ukuthi ke njengoba ubona ke lapho ukuthi angeke kwaze ukuthi liqosheke ke iphimbo lakho futhi ke uma ngabe sekufanele nje ukuthi ikhona lento efanele yolalelwa awungeke uzwisise kahle uma ngabe uqhubeka ke ukuthi ukhulumele phansi uyacela ukuthi uphakamise. My apologies.
Yes.
Thank you, my lord. A student constable by the name of Mark Sibia made a statement and he said on Sunday, 26 October.
Before we go to that,
Sorry, my lord.
whom did you say you remember seeing?
Uthe konje ubani lo okhumbulayo uthi wambona?
Ubengibuza ukuthi ngiyakhumbula yini ulantingana uSibiya ngathi yebo sengiyamkhumbula.
I was asked if I remember Sibiya Malot, and then I confirmed that yes, I do remember him.
All right.
Thank you, my lord. Now that you recall, was he with you?
Wayekanye nani?
Yes, babe nathi.
Yes, they were with us.
And who else?
Kanye nabani?
Noma ngasamkhumbuli kahle kodwa kwakuwuntombazane babe ngama student ngaleso sikhathi bona angisakhumbuli noma kwakuwumtshalo or kwakubani kodwa sengiyamkhumbula mayisesho uSibiya.
Although I can't remember properly, but it was a female. I don't know whether it was Mchali, but now that Sibiya has been mentioned, I'm able to remember.
Okay. So now let's correct what you said yesterday. It was not the 2 officers who attended the crime scene with you, but it was 4.
Asilungiseke lokho okushilo izolo okusho ukuthi ke kwakungasini yini nobabini kuphela ngamanye amagama wena nomathebula kodwa nani u4.
He kodwa nginesizathu ukuthi waye ngabafanga ngoba babe ngama student ngaleso sikhathi bona. Even nokushayela imoto babe ngakavumeleki ukuthi bashayele.
I have a reason, or I had a reason why I did not mention them, my lord, because they were students at the time, and even with regards to driving the vehicle, they were not allowed or permitted at the time to drive a vehicle.
You know what? Don't rush. I said yesterday you said you were 2. Now we're rectifying that it was not the 2 officers who attended the crime scene with you, but it was 4. Yes or no?
Ngicela ke ukuthi ungajahi ngoba izolo ke uthe nani u2 kodwa ke manje sesiyathola ke ukuthi nani u4 yebo noma cha.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And further to that, you said you had to leave the house because according to you it's not the crime scene. You had to leave the house and go to the police station. Am I correct?
Okunye
Sorry,
futhi
not police station, but the clinic or hospital.
Hospital.
Hospital, yes, hospital.
okunye futhi ke okushilo ukuthi nina phoqeka ke ukuthi nikushiye khona lapho ngoba ngokusho kwakho ke bekungasiyona icrime scene nisuke lapho nihambe niye esibhedlela.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And all these 4 police officers, they've made the statements, including yourself, and you say you received a complaint of a shooting in progress, and then you rushed to the scene. Am I correct?
Omane ke lamaphoyisa ke nawe futhi ke nithi kwistatement zenu enibhalileke ukuthi sathola ke sorry sathola ke umbiko ukuthi kune shooting in progress sahamba saya khona kwisini kunjalo.
Yebo kunjalo.
That is correct.
If a complaint says there is a shooting in progress, is that not an offense committed? Shooting.
Uma ngabe ke i-complaint lena enitholile ithi ke kune shooting in progress ingabe lokho akusiyona crime le ukuthi nje kuye kwadutshula khona lapho.
Yi crime.
It is.
And it involves what?
Inani phakathi.
If you can describe to us, what is a shooting?
Uma ungasichazela nje ngokudubula ke i-involve noma ifakani phakathi.
Ifake isibhamu.
A firearm.
Okay. So it means there will be a firing of shots.
Usho ukuthi kwadutshulwa ke lapho.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And then yet when you arrived at the crime scene, it did not ring to you that that area is a crime scene because shots had been fired in this place.
Mase nina nifika ke khona lapho akukho nje ukunitshela noma okushoyo kunina ukuthi leya ndawo leyana ke i-crime scene ngoba kudutshulwe noma kwadutshulwa khona lapho.
Iphi yona indawo siyikhonjiswa ubani?
Which place and who pointed the place out to us?
Listen here, you are not asking me question. Your duty is to answer my questions, and that's what I want you to do.
Okwakho ke ukuthi uphendule ke imibuzo iloko engifisa ke ukuthi ukwenza akuthi ke ungibuze imibuzo.
Mr. Mthethwa, I think we should make this simpler. Sometimes when you give your answers, they are in the form of retorts. You are sort of jibing back at the person asking the question. The current example, you were asked about whether the fact that shots had been fired did not render that place to be a crime scene. And your answer or your retort was which one, and who pointed it to me. A useful answer in that scenario could have been either I didn't know which one or where is the crime scene, or no one had pointed anything out to me, instead of saying who pointed it out to me. Because you will remember that much as you were not there when the offense was committed, all of us were also not present. Now, if you give that question to Advocate Msholo, she's looking for the answer just like you are looking for an answer. And it will help us to be faster if you coin your responses in the form of answers and not retorts and not asking questions back. Do you understand?
Kuzosiza ke ukuthi indlela ophendula ngayo ke ukuthi ke impendulo zakho ke uyihlanganise ke uma sisebenzisa isibonelo nje salo mbuzo obuziwe ke wase wena futhi ubuyisela umbuzo awuphendula uthi wena ke yiphi yona crime scene ngangikhonjiswe ubani mhlasimbe uma ngabe ubutheke ngangingazi ukuthi yiphi futhi kwakungenamuntu owayengikhombisile kungasiza ke lokho ukuthi sibe nenqubekela phambili uma ungalungisa nje indlela ophendula ngayo kunokuthi nje uma ubuza umbuzo wena uphinde futhi ubuyisele umbuzo kodwa awunikezi ngempendulo.
That is why even Mr. Tobane yesterday was asking you questions and you were asking questions back or even retorting.
Na izolo futhi ke kwenzile lokho nkathi ke ubuzwa uyena ke umnumzana uThobane uthi uma ngabe kubuza imibuzo ungaphenduli ke wena kodwa uphinde ubuyisela umbuzo kuyena.
Remember that you are here not as a man from the street, you are here representing the South African Police Service.
Ukhumbuleke ukuthi ukuba khona kwakho lana akuthathwanga nje umuntu estradini wakhona la kodwa ke ula egameni lamaphoyisa aseningizimu Afrika. Okunye ke futhi my apologies but okunye bengakushonga umehlulele bekushilo ngaphambilini ukuthi ke nanjengo advocate Mshololo akulindele ukuthi ke ulindele impendulo ngoba ke nanjengoba nawe wawungekho nkathi lokho yakwenzeka nathi sonke ke njengoba silana sasingekho ke.
I represent the judiciary, they represent their profession as advocates.
Umehluleli lohlezi laphana abameli ke laba umshushisi kanye futhi labameli abameli abamangalelo.
We all have a duty to show professionalism in what we are doing.
Sonke ke sifanele sibonakalise ke elona izinga eliphezulu ke ngomsebenzi wethu ke futhi ngalokho esikwenzayo.
We also have to show respect to each other.
Futhi ke sihloniphane sonke.
Even where our roles are at counter purposes or are at a clash.
Nala futhi khona ke kubonakala ukuthi khona ukungqubuzana noma ukushayisana ke.
You understand?
Kuyezwakala.
Yebo ngiyezwa ngizozama mhlawumbe indlela engikhuluma ngayo kodwa ngizozama ngiyezwa.
Yes, I hear my Lord. Maybe it's the way in which I speak, but I do hear and I will try.
Yeah, I like what you are saying. We are also trying, all of us. We have been trying ever since, and let us keep on trying.
Thank you, my Lord. Maybe before, can I continue, my Lord?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe before I continue with my questions, have you testified in court before regarding any crime scene that we have attended or any cases that we have attended?
Ngaphambilini kokuthi ngiqhubekeke ngicela ukubuza ukuthi usuke ngaphambilini yini wafakaza enkantolo mayelana nama crime scene osuke waya kuwona?
Yebo.
Yes.
In lower courts or in high courts?
Kwinkantolo ephakeme noma ke kuma singothi ke ema magistrate court.
Nase high court ngake ngaya.
Even at the high court I've been.
So let's do the same as you were giving answers in that court.
Asenze ke ngandlela ke owenze ngayo kuleyo nkantolo leyo.
I was now at the crime scene, which is the house. But from your evidence, it's not the crime scene.
Ngise lapha yana ke endlini ke noma ku crime scene leyana ekumuzi kodwa ke ngokusho kwakho wena ke kwakungasiyona i-crime scene.
Then my question was, after having heard that shots had been fired or a shooting had taken place in that house or in that place, did it not ring into your mind that that surely was then a crime scene as a result of that?
Emuva kokuthi senathola ke complaint noma umbiko ke ukuthi angithi uthe uma uchaza wathi nathola umbiko othi kune shooting in progress. Emuva kokuthi nikuzwile ke lokho seniyafika ke khona lapha yana akukho yini nje okushoyo ke emqondweni ukuthi ke manje lena ke ngenxa yalokho sekuyi crime scene ke lendlu.
Kwaba khona lokho okwasho emqondweni wami ukuthi i-crime scene kodwa ngenxa yokuthi angitholanga umuntu ozongipoint ozongikhomba ukuthi kuphi kwenzakaleni kuphi ephakathi egcekeni noma endlini kwakungekho ukuthi ngizothi i-crime scene iyona yipi.
Yes, it rang in my mind that it was a crime scene, but because of the fact that there was no one who gave me information as to what had exactly happened, whether it happened inside the yard or in the yard or inside the house.
Okay. But you were responding to the complaint that there had been a shooting at house number 13511, and that is where you attended to.
Kodwa ke ukuba khona la kwenu lapho kwakusemuva kokuthi ke nathola i-complaint ethi kwakune shooting eyayikhona ke kwa 13511.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. So what more did you want? Because you had responded to the complaint that there had been a shooting incident at house so and so, and you were there.
Yini ke okunye enanikufuna ke ngoba ke notholile umbiko ke ufikile umbiko wabe umbiko ufika unekheli ukuthi kwa 13511 ekuhlwa nongo. Yini ke okunye enanifuna?
Angazi noma ngingakhona yini ukuchaza kancane.
I don't know whether I'm able to just explain a bit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yebo.
Ukufika kwethu lapha ya kungekho umuntu osichazela ukuthi kwenzakaleni. Even noma ngabe kuthiwa khona umuntu odutshiliwe akekho mhlambe la.
Okay. Upon our arrival there, and with no one being there to explain to us as to what had happened, and even if it was alleged that someone had been shot, but that person wasn't there or wasn't around, yebo.
Kwasenza sadideka nathi sayitshela ukuthi mhlambe if ngoba ethi lo muntu basesibhedlela abantu abanolwazi lokuthi kwenzakaleni.
It also made us confused, or it also confused us, because this very same person informed us that the people with information or the people with the knowledge were at the hospital.
Okay.
So okwafika emqondweni wethu ngaleso sikhathi kwakuwukuthi ake siye esibhedlela sithole ukuthi kwenzakaleni. Ingakho sasesibuya fast sesibona ukuthi isini leyo.
What then came to our minds was that let us quickly rush to the hospital and get to know or to find out as to what exactly happened, which is then the reason why we quickly rushed back, because it was only then that we realized that it was a sin.
Okay. It's fine. Let's move on. You have been told that there had been a shooting incident. When you arrived in that place wherein a shooting incident had been reported, as officers, police officers, did you inspect any exhibits in that house?
Nitholileke noma i-complaint ifikileke kunina ukuthi ke kudutshuliwe khona lapha yana futhi ke nanjengamaphoyisa ke ingaba nahlola yini noma na inspector ke indlu leyana nibheke ukuthi ukhona yini ubufakazi obungatholakala noma eningabuthola.
Sayi inspector indlu sesibuya okwesibili.
We inspected the house upon our second return.
No, for the first time.
Ngibuza ke mina ke
First
okokuqala.
time, first police officers who arrived at the crime scene, 4 police officers, trained constable, Mthethwa, and student constable.
Ngikhuluma mina ke ngalela hlandla lokuqala ke nifika okokuqala futhi ke nama niba 4.
Did you check if there were any exhibits in the shooting incident?
Nabheka yini ukuthi bukhona ubufakazi obukhona emuva kokuthi nitsheliwe noma na umbiko wafika ke ukuthi kwadutshulwa
Before you left to hospital?
ngaphambilini kokuthi nithathe isinqumo sokuthi anihambeke niye esibhedlela?
Hayi okokuqala sikaze sicheck sangena nje ukubheka endlini.
No, during the first time, my lord, we did not check. We just went into the house.
And then when you were now taking the decision to leave the crime scene, now we know that it was a crime scene. Are we in agreement now?
Ingabe okay, manje ke senithatha isinqumo ke sokuthi niyahamba ke manje. Ingabe siyavumelana ke yini ukuthi ngalesi sikhathi senithatha isinqumo ukuthi niyahamba? Siyavumelana yini ukuthi sekuyi crime scene ke leyo? Ngaphambilini nje ukuthi nihambe.
Cha asivumelani.
No, we are not in agreement.
Before you left, why you didn't split? Why you didn't leave other members to guard the house, not the crime scene, to guard the house?
Ngaphambilini ke ukuthi nihambe ke kwakuyini ke imbangela yokuthi ke nithi ke abanye abasale bangagadi i-crime scene kodwa bagade nje umuzi lo noma indlu lena ke
Where a shooting incident had been reported.
la kuye kwadutshulwana khona.
Just to guard that place to see if there are any further shooting, or just to guard if there is anyone who is coming to pick up the exhibits in that house. We understand it's not a crime scene, but it's a shooting place.
nje ukuthi kube khona ke abagadayo bagada ukuthi mhlasimbe nje angeke kuphinde yini kudutshulwane bagada nje nokuthi ke angeke kube namuntu ozofika mhlasimbe ke azothatha noma asuse ubufakazi ngoba siyazi ukuthi la kule ndlu lena ukudutshulweni.
Ngoba ngisho ukuthi emqondeni wethu kwakuwukuthi akabikho into esilidela ukuthi i-crime scene le ingakho sakho uhamba sona.
As I've already alluded to the fact that in our minds nothing had registered at that time yet that it was a crime scene. Hence the decision that we all decided that we live together.
Did it ring into your mind that the people who had been firing shots can come back and pick up the exhibits?
Ingaba kwanifikela yini ukuthi mhlasimbe labantu laba abadubula bangabuya futhi bazocosha ubufakazi?
It did not. It didn't ring into your mind.
Akuzange kufike.
Cha kaze kufike.
No, it never.
You know the reason why it did not ring into your mind? It's because you were inexperienced for that crime scene. All of you were juniors. There was no one to supervise the duties that you were supposed to do as members of the SAPS attending such an important crime scene.
Uyazi ukuthi yini ke imbangela yokuthi kungazange kunifikeleke lokho ukuthi ke nonke ke nani nginaso ke isipiliyoni sokuthi nibe lapho kungekho futhi ongaphezulu kunina ngesikhundla ukuthi ke abheke noma asupervise umsebenzi eniwenzayo. Okay?
And this case has been poorly investigated because it was attended by inexperienced police officers first time and incompetent police officers.
Futhi ke uphenyo ngendlela olwenziwa ngayo ke uqala leli ke alizange nje lwenziwe ngendlela nje efanelekile noma futhi indlela ekuyiyona ngoba abantu abaya ke lapha kuqala kwaya amaphoyisa amaphoyisa angenasipiliyoni futhi ke abangekho isimo sokuthi ngokomsebenzi bangakhona lapho.
Is there any response?
Unayo impendulo nayo? No.
Okay, let's move on. You said you met someone who referred to himself as Themba Khumalo. Is that so?
Ufakazi bakho shilo-ke ukuthi nahlangana nomuntu owathi uma ichaza yena uThemba Khumalo.
Yebo.
Yes.
Did you ask him as to how he was related to that house?
Ngabe ngaleso sikhathi ke nambuza yini ukuthi yena ke ubudlelwane bakhe ke noma uhlobene kanjani ke kuleyo ndlu leyo?
Yebo.
Yes.
What did he say?
Wathini ke?
Wathi ubhuti kaMakhumalo.
He said that he was Makhumalo's brother.
Okay. And you believed him?
Nakholelwa ke lokho akushoyo.
Ngoba babemshiye nokhiye wendlu samkholela.
Because he was left with the keys of the house, so we believed him.
Was there no possibility of leaving a key with someone whom they were not related to?
Kwakungekho yini ukuthi noma kwakungenzeki yini ukuthi isikhiya sasingashiywa nomuntu ongasiyena owomndeni?
Angazi.
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know if the said Themba Khumalo was the suspect,
Uyazi yini ukuthi lowo Themba Khumalo lowo wayewumsolo?
the one who was left with the keys for the house?
Yena lowo owashiywa nezikhiya zendlu.
Do you want to
I
say
know
maybe
nothing.
that
You did not.
he was a
sorry.
culprit? Because for a suspect, somebody
Oh,
must
thank you, my
suspect.
lord. Thank you, my lord. Yes, he was a culprit. That's what I meant. Thank you, my lord. He was a culprit.
The answer said no, I don't know.
Okay. And you did not ask him?
Awuzange umbuze futhi ke na. Noma nizange nimbuze ke.
Ukuthini?
Mhlasimbe nje
Whether he was a culprit or not?
noba kukhona nokumhlanganisayo nakona lokho okwenzeka khona lapho.
Wathi yena akazi ukuthi ufoneliwe nje ukuthi akeze azogada labasaphuthuma esibhedlela.
He said to us that he knew nothing about what had happened. He was only contacted to come and look after the house. They were quickly rushing to hospital.
And you believed him? You left the crime scene in his hands.
Namkholwa ke kuloko namshiya nendlu leyo nina nahamba.
Samkholwa ngoba sasimfice khona phela.
We believed him because we found him there.
Do you know that what you were supposed to do as the police officers? You were supposed to take the house keys from him and lock the house on your own when
Yes.
you were leaving the crime scene.
Uyazi ke okwakufanele nikwenzeke nina nanjengamaphoyisa ukuthi nithathe ikhiye kuyena kube yinina ke abantu abavalayo indlu leyo.
Okay.
Okay?
And you did not do that.
Anizange nikwenze lokho.
Hayi asikwenzanga.
No, we didn't.
And you left the house, the crime scene, with a person whose status was not identified or clarified at that time.
Nahamba ke nashiya umuzi nomuntu eningamazi ukuthi kwakuyini emhlanganisayo noma uyabandakanyeka noma akabandakanyeki kulokho okwenzekile khona lapho. Nawushiya umuzi naloyo muntu lowo.
Angithi uthi umuzi hayi crime scene.
You are referring to a house, not a crime scene.
Yeah, the house. You are a sergeant now. You were constable by then. Sergeant, that was a crime scene.
Sergeant manje constable then. Sergeant kwakuyi crime scene there. Okay?
We're now talking about the crime scene. The house is a crime scene, I'm telling you.
Ngiyakutshela ke manje ukuthi lendlu esikhuluma ngayo ke kwakuyi crime scene noma i crime scene.
Okay.
Okay?
You left the crime scene with someone who was not supposed to be keeping the keys of the crime scene as the police officers.
Na njengamaphoyisa ke nashiya indlu ke kanye nomuntu ekwangafanele ukuthi ikhiye nishiye naye.
Yes, sashiya indlu.
Yes, we left the house.
And for how long? Okay, let me just take you back. Do you still have your statements? Because yesterday I see you were struggling to read the time recorded in your statement when you arrived at the crime scene. I want us to be clear now.
Izolo sibonile ke ukuthi nje ngokuphathelene nezikhathi lezi ke bekunzima ke ukuthi uyifunde, so bengifuna nje sicacelwe ke manje.
Read it, Sergeant, because now I want you to take us from the time you left the house to the hospital and the time when you came back.
Ngifuna ke manje isikhathi osuke ngaso endlini uya esibhedlele kanye nesikhathi ke enabuya ngaso.
Okay? What time did you arrive
Isikhathi nafika ngaso?
for the first time?
Nkathi nifika okokuqala.
Oh, 7 minutes to 9.
7 minutes before 9.
Okay. In hospital, when did you arrive?
Nafika ngasiphi isikhathi esibhedlele?
Hayi angisibhalanga sasesibhedlela.
It's not written here.
And then when did you come back?
Ukubuya, senibuya ke manje nibuyela kwesibili.
Hayi uma ngingaphosisi mhlambe sabuya ngabo 210 or
If
10.
if I'm not making a mistake, maybe before 10 or 10.
Okay, that was almost an hour. Can we agree on that?
Asije i-hour nje noma kungafinyelela kwi-hour.
Yeah, mhlambe singazo.
Yes, maybe we can say so.
Okay. Do you know what happened in the crime scene in that hour when you left no one guarding the crime scene?
Ingabe uyazi yini ke ukuthi yini eyenzeka kuleli hora leliyana ke nihambile lapha yana ningashiyanga umuntu khona lapha ya. Yeah.
Angazi kwenzakalani endlini ngaleso sikhathi.
No, I don't know as to what happened to the house by that time or during that time.
Let me tell you. There is a witness by the name of Sylvia Happy Ngubane.
Sylvia.
Sylvia Happy Ngubeni.
Okay.
My lord, it's a statement that I've already submitted it into the record before.
Okay. Kunofakazi ke ummeli ke uzokufundela ke noma uzokutshela ke ukuthi kwenzekani uthi ke uyakutshela ke ukuthi kunofakazi ogama lakhe luSylvia Happy Ngubeni.
Yes.
My lord, I'm reading paragraph 30 of that statement, my lord. It's statement 117. Statement 117 of Sylvia Happy Ngubeni.
Sizobheka lapha yana.
Yes.
Ngiyabona.
My lord, I'm just waiting to see if they can be able to open it there, or maybe I should just read it to the witness.
It's there.
Okay. Paragraph 12. Can I read it, my lord, now?
Yes.
Thank you. It says that line, when I arrived at Kumalo's house, the doors were closed. I don't know who opened the doors. Myself, Maggie Piri, Julia Masia, and Gugu went into the house.
Ithi ke mayifundeka lapha yana ngathi uma ngifika kwaKhumalo iminyango yayivaliwe angazi ukuthi ubani owavula mina uMeggy Phiri uJulia Masia kanye noGugu sangena endlini.
Do you hear that?
Uyakuzwa lokho?
Ngiyabona ngiyakuzwa.
Yes, I do.
Paragraph 13. The reason I went into the house is because I wanted to see what happened in the house. When we're in the house, I saw water on the floor, on the passage near the toilet door. I was amazed to see the water on the floor where I was told somebody was shot in the house.
Imbangela ke yokuthi ngingene endlini kungoba ngangifuna ukubona ukuthi kwenzekani endlini. Sathi uma sesisendlini ke ngabona amanzi phansi epassagini eduze komnyango wase toilet. Kwangimangaza ke ukuthi ngibone amanzi phansi ngoba ngangizwe ukuthi noma ngangitsheliwe ukuthi kunomuntu owadutshulwa endlini.
Okay. This is happening when you were not there. You were in hospital.
Lokhu ke kwenzeka nkathi ningekafiki lapha yana.
Paragraph 15. Maggie Piri started to pick up the empties from the floor. I asked her why she tidying up before the police could arrive. Do you see that?
Paragraph 15 uthi ke uMeggy Phiri bese qala ke ukuxosha ama-empty ayephansi ngambuza ke ukuthi kwenzelani ke noma yini ebangela ukuthi aklineke ngaphambilini kokuthi amaphoyisa afike lapho endlini. uMeggy waphendula ke
Meggy responded that she doesn't want the police to see that people who were inside the house were drinking. Myself, Gugu and Julia then went outside.
uMeggy waphendula ke wathi wayengafuni ukuthi amaphoyisa abone ukuthi abantu ababe phakathi endlini babephuza. Mina ke uGugu kanye noJulia saphumela ngaphandle.
Okay. Paragraph 17. Up a bit. The police arrived at the scene and they went into the house. I can't remember who opened the house for them. They came out and I always saw the police van and I thought the police were always in the vicinity. Later, a contingent of police arrived and conducted the scene and cordoned off the scene with tapes. That's you now.
Amaphoyisa afika kusini angena endlini angisakhumbuluke ukuthi ubani owabavulela baye aphuma ke amaphoyisa ngangibabona ke isikhathi sonke iveni amaphoyisa ngayibona isikhathi sonke futhi ngicabanga ke ukuthi ayihlezi ekhona lapho amaphoyisa. Kamuva ke kwafika amaphoyisa amaningi ase evala ke noma efaka ke itape yamaphoyisa. Uthi ke uadvocate yinina ke labo.
The police arrived and cordoned off the scene with the tapes. They closed the gate with the tapes and instructed all people to go out of the yard.
Amaphoyisa afika bavala ke isango noma igate ngetape base betshela wonke umuntu ke ukuthi aphumele ngaphandle noma ngale kwegceke. Kusale abomndeni kuphela.
Okay, did you get that, Sergeant?
Ukuzwile lokho, Sergeant?
Yebo ngizwile.
Yes, I did.
It's you who cordoned off the crime scene.
Inina abavala ngithi cordon.
18.
Yes, it was us.
And it was in your second visit
Ilesikhathi senibuye kwesibili ke.
when you cordoned off the crime scene.
Ngalenkathi nivala ngithi ilesikhathi senibuye kwesibili.
Ukuthi ngiyafuna ukuchaza manje sengiyanqena ngozothi ngiyachaza kanti sengiphuma endleleni.
No, just answer the question. You cordoned off the crime scene when you came for the second time from the hospital.
Yeah. Nkathi ke nivala lapha kwakuyilesikhathi senibuya nisuka esibhedlela. That's correct.
And before you arrived, the crime scene was cleaned.
Ngaphambilini kokuthi nifike ke i-crime scene ya-clean.
Before you arrived to cordon off the crime scene, it was cleaned.
Ngaphambi kokuthi nifike nina ke bese niyavala i-crime scene ya-clean.
Yangitshela.
Is that the statement?
Yes.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You said that had you not left the crime scene unattended, those people would not have been able to enter inside the house and clean the crime scene.
Uma ngabe kwakwenzile noma kwenzeka ke ukuthi i-crime scene nje naningayishiyanga nje kanjalo nje kungekho umuntu oyibhekile laba abantu laba ekhulunywa ngabo lapha yani kulesa statement babengeke bakwazi ukuthi bangene benze lokho abakwenza.
Bengichazile ukuthi ngiyafuna khona ukuchaza kodwa manje ngiyanqena ngoba kuzoba ngathi ngiphuma endleleni.
I did mention, my lord, that I would like to explain, but then I don't want a situation now. I'll be seen to be now not to be just getting out of the way.
Do you see that?
No, Mr. Mtetwa, the fact that we corrected you here and there should not restrain you. Give the answer you have in your mind to the question that is coming. If there's something wrong, we will tell you. We will not fight you. We will just tell you that the answer is not appropriate.
Ukuthi ngaphambilini ubutsheliweke noma ubuzanywa ukuthi ulungisweke lokho akusho ukuthi unganikezi ngalempendulo onayo emqondweni wakho kumbuzo obuzwayo. Uma ngabe kuukuthi ke ukhona nje okurongo kuleyo nto inkantolo izokutshela kodwa lokho akukuvimbi ukuthi unganikezi ngempendulo onayo kumbuzo obuzwayo.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your response?
Uthini-ke
Do
uphendula?
you see or do you realize that had you not left the crime scene unattended, those witnesses, especially this one, will not have been able to access the crime scene and clean the crime scene before you cordoned off the crime scene?
Uyabona-ke noma uyaqonda yini ukuthi-ke uma ngabe kwakwenzekile-ke ukuthi i-crime scene ningayishiyi nje kanjalo, ofakazi laba kakhulukazi-ke lo ufakazi okufunda lesi statement sakhe babengeke bakwazi ukuthi bangene-ke khona lapho kwi-crime scene.
Ukube mhlambe kunala athi khona amaphoyisa afikile angena endlini aphuma ahamba then sasala kwenzeka ukuthi nokuthi lezi zinto ayibalile ngabe ngiyakuvuma konke lokho.
Okay, if there was a part or a portion, my lord, where that says the police arrived, the police went out of the house, and thereafter we then gained entry or access into the house and did these things that are being mentioned here, I would have understood that point.
Don't worry, I'll read it for you again until you understand it. Look at that paragraph 17. The police arrived at the scene. Paragraph 17, it's immediately after the house has been cleaned from the previous paragraph that I've read.
Paragraph 17 lona-ke kusemuva-ke kokuthi beklinile kule paragraph le bese ngifundile ngaphambilini.
Okay? And then this person is standing outside the house, is watching you coming in to the house.
Manje lana-ke umi ngaphandle-ke lo muntu lona walesi statement
Let's go.
uyabuka-ke noma uyabona amaphoyisa engena ngaphakathi endlini.
Let's go together again now. The police arrived at the scene and they went in the house.
Uyaqala-ke lana uthi amaphoyisa asefika-ke kwi-scene angena phakathi endlini.
I can't remember who opened the house for them.
Angisakhumbuli-ke ukuthi ubani owabavulela endlini.
They came out
Baphuma.
and I thought the police were always in the vicinity.
I always saw.
Sorry?
I always saw, not thought.
I always saw the police van and I thought the police were always in the vicinity.
Ngabona-ke noma ngangibona-ke ukuthi iveni yamaphoyisa ikhona, ngacabanga-ke noma lokho ukuthi ngabona iveni yamaphoyisa ikhona kwangenza ngacabanga ukuthi-ke amaphoyisa ayehlezi ekhona kuleyo ndawo.
Okay. Later, a contingency of police arrived and cordoned off the scene with tapes.
Kamuva kwafika-ke amaphoyisa ase evala-ke noma ebiya-ke ngama-tapes.
And according to your evidence, it was yourself who cordoned off the crime scene. Am I correct?
Ngokobufakazi bakho-ke kwakuyinina ababiya noma abavala-ke nge-tape angithi?
Yebo.
That's correct.
So it means this witness is referring to you that he then saw you entering and then cordoned off the crime scene.
Manje-ke la lo fakazi-ke kusho ukuthi lana uchaza nina-ke ukuthi wabona nina-ke ningena kamuva-ke nase nivala-ke noma senicordona off i-scene.
They closed the gate with the tapes and instructed all people to go out of the yard, and only the family members must remain.
Base bevala-ke igate noma isango-ke ngama-tape noma nge-tape babe besebetshela wonke-ke umuntu ukuthi aphumele ngaphandle egcekeni kusale abomndeni kuphela.
And that was your evidence yesterday?
Bekuwubufakazi bakho lobo izola ngithi.
Yebo.
That's correct.
Yes. So I am sorry.
Are you still on this point because it's now tea time?
Tea time.
Yeah, but if you are in the middle of something, rather finish it.
Thank you, Mara. Can I just finish this question only then?
yeah, you can.
So now, do you see that at the time when you arrived and cordoned off the crime scene, it had already been cleaned?
Manje ingabe usuyabona-ke ukuthi uma ngabe ulandela lokhu-ke okushiwo lana ukuthi ngalesikhathi nina senifika-ke noma ilesikhathi nibuye kwesibili senivala-ke ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi leso bese kukliniwe vele.
Let's take a break. We'll answer after a short break. My lord, can you just give him a break?
All right. Okay.
15 minutes.
Answer now the question.
Cabanga ukuthi ke usungawuphendula ke manje umbuzo
Or do you want me to repeat it?
noma ufisa ukuthi ngiwuphinde?
Yebo ngiyacela ukuthi angiphindele.
Please repeat.
I was saying, do you see what happened during the time when you had left the crime scene without leaving any guards, going to the hospital before the crime scene was cordoned off by yourselves?
Bengithi ke uyabona ke manje kulokho beqeda ufundwa lana ukuthi kwenzekani ke ngesinqumo ke nasithatha ukuthi ke nihambe niye esibhedlele ke kungabi namuntu noma abantu abasalayo bagade khona lapha yana.
Ngabe ngivumelana na inkosi enkantolo kube khona la asho khona umama lo bhalile ukuthi safika okokuqala sase siyahamba then kwasale kwenzeka sase siyabuya kwesibili sesizokhondola isini ngabe ngiyakuvumela konke lokho abangivezela khona lapha ku statement sakhe.
I would have agreed with what was shown out or what was read out to me if the witness was saying, my lord, we arrived there and then for the first time and we left and then everything that was mentioned there happened and then we came back for the second time and only then we cordoned the scene off. I would have agreed with what is being said here.
Is that not what is being said?
Ingabe ke ayikona lokho kushiwoyo lapha.
I think that's what being said. It's being said that after you left for the hospital, these ladies came and there was picking of cans, there was cleaning of the floor, which was questioned, and one of them said no, the cleaning is to prevent it being revealed that there was beer drinking in the house.
Ngicabanga ukuthi ke yilokho kushiwoyo ke ngokusho ke kwakhe kumehluleli ukuthi ke ilesikhathi ke kunimuva ukuthi ngihambile ke nesibhedlele la khona ke kunalo ofike ke wabe eseya cleana ke omunye ambuze ukuthi ukwenzelani ke asechaza ke ukuthi uvimba ukuthi ke amaphoyisa angaboni ukuthi labo ababephakathi endlini babephuza.
It is then that you arrived, and in other words it suggests that the scene or the place you left when you went to the hospital was no longer the same when you returned.
Lokho kusho ukuthi ke indawo lena ke ngendlela nayishiya ngayo ngesikhathi nihamba nesibhedlela mase nibuya ke akuseyona leya ngendlela enanishiye ingayo.
And the question is saying, had you left someone when you went to the hospital, those ladies would not have been able to come. Whoever you would have left would have told them not to pick anything, would have told them not to clean.
Inkantolo ithi ke icabanga ukuthi ke ila khona ke ukuthi ke uma ngabe kwenzekile ukuthi kube nomuntu onimshiyayo umama lona ke kanye nabanye laba abachazayo babengeke bakwazi ukuthi bangene ngoba umuntu loyo noma abantu labo nanizobashiye nanizothi nibashiye babezobavimba ukuthi cha anivumelekile ukuthi ningene anivumelekile ukuthi niqoshe lutho.
Ngiyezwa kodwa angazi nami mhlawumbe yimi ekhona la ngisale khona ngenkathi kufundwa ilantingana la istatement angazi kodwa bengithi mhlawumbe ngendlela achaza ngayo ukuthi masifika singenile endlini then sakhondola isini even iloku ikhona ngaphandle.
I do understand, my lord, but I don't know whether I'm the one who was left behind or where I make a mistake, because she says, from what was being read here, that we arrived, we cordoned the scene off, and that at all times she saw that the van was there. So I don't know whether I'm the one who was left behind, or I didn't understand properly.
Okay. Proceed.
The paragraph, it's very clear. Sergeant, the paragraph, it's very clear. It says, immediately after we've cleaned the crime scene, the police arrived and cordoned off the crime scene.
Icacile ke ukuthi kuloko kufundwa lapha yana ke ukuthi emuva kokuthi amaphoyisa efikile ke noma ke sklinile ke ukuthi emuva kokuthi thina ke sesklinile ke kufike amaphoyisa abe eseyavala ke.
Do you understand that?
Uyakuzwa lokho?
Ngiyakuzwa.
I do understand.
And the police who are referred to in that paragraph who cordoned off the crime scene is yourself.
Amaphoyisa la ekhulunywa ngawo lapha yana ke lana afika avala ke inina.
Yebo ithini.
Yes, it is us.
Then let's apply our mind to the facts. The crime scene had been cleaned, and as we were still standing there, the police arrived and cordoned off the crime scene.
Asithatheke imikondo yethu ke sibeke ke kuloko esikutshelayo noma kulamaphuzu ke la afundwa lapha yana ukuthi kusemuva kokuthi siklinileke afika ke amaphoyisa samile lapha yana abe eseyavala.
Nkosi enkantolo nami emqondweni wami kunokuthi bayikline ngaphambi kokuba if ethi bacleanile benza bayikline ngaphambi kokuba sifike kwaboqala mhlawumbe ngoba mase sibhedlela sesibuya amacan lawo abevele khona kwamanzi akhuluma ngawo thina sifica ngamanzi kwasokuqaleni sasiwabona amanzi mhlawumbe masingena sihamba so mhlawumbe lokho akushoye ngasho ukuthi kwafika kwethu kokuqala bese bevele ekwenzile lokho sorry bese vele kwenzile lokho shoot athi bakwenzile.
In my mind as well, my lord, that everything that the witness is referring to here in this statement is something that was done before we even came or arrived there for the first time. Because when we arrived there, the cans were there, and when we came back from hospital, the cans were there. But the water that the person is referring to, we didn't see any water there. So in my mind, what that says is that this was done even before we arrived for the first time.
Doesn't that complicate it more? Because then how do you find cans if it happens before you arrive for the first time?
Ingabe lokho ko akwenzike ukuthi kube nzima ke kube nzima impela ke ngoba ke uma ngabe lokho bakwenza ngaphambi kokuthi nifike nje okoqala kwenzeka kanjani ke ukuthi nina ke nithole ama cans lawana?
You wouldn't have found anything because you are suggesting that they cleaned before you ever arrived.
Ngoba ke uma ngabe kwakwenzekile ukuthi baclean nje ningekafiki ngisho nokokuqala ngisho nama can lawana ke okhulume ngawo wena ukuthi nawathola nani ngeke niwathole.
Inkosi enkantolo nakho ke siwathola futhi sesibuya esibhedlela siwathola kanjani ama can if vele bakwenzile lokho angiphikisana ukuthi bakwenzile angazi ngangekho kodwa sesibuya esibhedlela ke siwathola kanjani siwaphinde siwathole futhi kanjani.
My lord, I don't disagree that they didn't do that, but now we went to hospital and we come back and we find the very same cans there, my lord. So how is it possible then that we were able to find the cans?
Oh, so you are saying if they cleaned whilst you were at the hospital, you wouldn't have returned to find any cans?
Uthike uma ngabe ukuthi ba clean ngalesikhathi nina nisesibhedleleke lokho kusho ukuthi nani ngeke niwathola ama can uma babe clean ngalesikhathi nina nisesibhedlela nani ngeke uma nibuya nithole kunala ma can.
Yebo kusho ukuthi ama can sasingeke siwathole ngoba kuthiwa angithi ba cleanile baqoqa nama can.
That is correct, my lord. We would not have found the cans because it is alleged that they cleaned and they even took the cans.
Yes.
So, you are saying it is not true, it's not correct what the witness is saying here, to say the crime scene was cleaned and immediately you arrived to cordon off the crime scene.
Okushoyo ke ukuthi akulona iqiniso lokhu okhulunywa la ulofakazi ukuthi base ba cleaner emuva kokuthi nje becleanile nase nyafika nina.
That is not correct.
Uthi akulona
According
iqiniso
to
le.
you. It's not correct.
Akulona iqiniso.
It's not correct.
Uthi akulona iqiniso lokho akushoyo.
Ayikuthi ba clean sesibhedlela hayi.
That they cleaned whilst we were in hospital? No.
Let's go to the second statement.
Would you be agreeable to the suggestion that they cleaned before you cordoned off?
Ungavumelana nento ethi ba clean ngaphambilini kokuthi ni cordon nina noma nivale. Ungavuma lokho ukuthi bakwenza lokho ngaphambi kokuthi nivale.
Ngokukhulu kuyithoba ngingavumelana nenkantolo mayithi sifika vele kokuqala kwasevele kwenzekile lokho ngingavumelana nayo lokho nje not saying ngoba ngabona okanjani kodwa mhlambe kwenzeka singakafiki thina.
With the greatest of respect to the court, my lord, I would agree with the court if it was said that they did it even way before, or even before we arrived, or even there for the first time there. Not to say that I saw it, but that it happened before we arrived even for the first time.
But the court is asking from you a simple thing. Would you agree that the crime scene was cleaned before you even cordoned off the crime scene?
Okubuzwa inkantolo nje okulula nje ukuthi ungavumelana yini uma ngabe kuthiwa ke ukwenza kwabo lokho noma uklina kwabo ke lokho kwenzeka nje ngaphambilini kokuthi nina nivale. Ungavumelana nalokho? Yebo noma cha?
Uma ukuthi kwenzeka ngingavumelana nenkantolo.
If it is that it happened, I would agree with the court.
And it happened before you cordoned off the crime scene.
Futhi ke kwenzeka ke ngaphambilini kokuthi nivale nina.
Ngaphambi kokuthi ngifike nje ngivale, yes.
Yes, before I arrived and cordoned off.
Before you cordoned off, that's the language you use here in court. The crime scene was cleaned before you cordoned off the crime scene.
Lana ke thwa ke ukuthi i-crime scene yaklinwa ngaphambi kokuthi niyikhode nina noma niyivale.
Okay.
Okay?
Perfect. The second witness, A119, my lord, I also have submitted this statement before. I'll just be referring to specific paragraphs. Thank you, my lord. May I ask that those who are taking photographs not to take this statement when it's beamed there? Statement of Julia Masia. It's 119. 119.
Was that interpreted?
Which one, Robert?
Sorry, my lord.
The request that no photographing happens as against the statements that are being beamed on the screen.
I think it's fish.
Yes, my lord, there were pictures that were taken.
Come again.
Yes, my lord, there were pictures that were taken for the statement when it was beamed there.
No, my question is as to whether it is known that that should not happen. That the statements should not be, are you not saying the statements should not be photographed?
Yes, should not be photographed,
Yeah.
as I requested, my lord, even before when I was using it.
And was it interpreted?
No, my lord, I didn't. Mostly it's mostly learned people who are doing that, so I don't see the need to interpret it.
You are assuming? Okay. I don't think it's...
Ngiyacela ke u-advocate umhlololo ukuthi makuvese statement lapha kungathathwa iy'thombe zaso.
Yes, let's proceed.
Thank you, my lord. In that statement, my lord, for Julia.
This is the statement of Julia.
Julia, yes, Julia
And that-
Masia.
And that number, that's A.
It's A119. 119. Julia Nzulaifi. Whatever, my lord. Masia.
Yes.
Can you go down to paragraph 3? And I'm reading, my lord, on line 5, line number 5, which says, I realized that Makumalo left the house. Myself, Megipiri, Happy Ngubeni, and Gugu Ngubeni decided to enter inside the house. At that time, the door was wide open.
Okay. Ithi ke lana ngase ngibona ke, okay. Thanks. Ngase ngabona ke ukuthi uMakhumalo wahamba noma wayishiya indlu, mina uMegiphiri, uHappy Ngubeni kanye noGugu Ngubeni sathatha ke isinqumo sokuthi singene phakathi endlini ngaleso sikhathi, yebo.
The door
Oh, sorry.
wa-
Ngaleso sikhathi ke umnyango wawuvuliwe.
Piri led us inside the house. I entered the house and stood at the passage. I saw a lot of empty beers bottles on the floor. I did not see anything else besides empty of beer bottles.
Okay. uMegiphiri ke uyena owasiholela phakathi endlini, ngangena mina ke ngama epassage ngabona amabhodlela amaningi a-empty eleli phansi obhiya angizange ngibone lutho okunye ngaphandleni kwalawo mabhodlela ke angenalutho obhiya.
But when you arrived, Sergeant, you did not see these lots of beer bottles.
Ukufikeni kwakho wena ke Sergeant la mabhodlela obhiya awuzange uwabone noma nizange niwabone? No.
Okokuqala nje sifika nje okokuqala.
No, when we arrived for the very first time we didn't see them.
Meyiwa suggested to us that we should clean the house before the police arrive. We ignored her, and she continued to pack empty of the beer bottles, and we left Meyiwa behind, busy packing the empties.
Umeyiwa ke waye wathi kuthina ke kuzofanele ukuthi siklineke endlini ngaphambilini kokuthi amaphoyisa afike. Asamziba ke waqhubeka ke yena ke ukuthi ke ehlanganisa ke lawo mabhodlela angenalutho obhiya sahamba samshiya ke uMeyiwa ngasemuva thina ke ebusy ke eqoqa lawo ma-empty lawo.
Okay. Paragraph 5, line number 1. Same statement. We stood outside and a police van with 2 police officials arrived at the scene. At that time, there were a lot of people in the yard, also in the street. The police put the police tapes to prevent other people from entering the premises, and I saw them talking to Themba Khumalo.
Sama ngaphandle ke kwase kufika ke event yamaphoyisa enamaphoyisa amabili lapho kwisini. Ngaleso sikhathi leso ke kwakunabantu abaningi abephakathi egcekeni kanye futhi abanye beme ngaphandle estradini. Amaphoyisa ase efaka ke i-tape yawo ukuvimba abantu ukuthi bangene ngaphakathi. Mina ke ngababona bekhuluma noThemba Khumalo.
This is the second witness who is saying one and the same thing, to say the crime scene was packed before you arrived, before the crime scene was cordoned off by yourselves.
Ufakazi
You see
wesibini
that?
ke okhuluma into oyedwa lona ukuthi ke kwakunabantu abaningi noma kwagcwele lapha yana lokho futhi ke kwenzeka ngaphambilini kokuthi nje kuvalwe lapha yana kwi-crime scene.
Bottles were packed. Beer bottles were packed
Kanye futhi ke kunala mabhodlela ke abhiya ke la ayehlanganiswa
before you cordoned off the crime scene.
ngaphambilini kokuthi nina ke nivale lapha yana.
Did you hear that?
Ukuzwile lokho?
Yebo nguzwile.
Yes, I did.
This is the second witness.
Ufakazi wesibili ke lo.
And that at that time when that happened, is when you had left the crime scene to the hospital.
Nkathi kwenzeka ke lokho ilesikhathi nina ke nahamba ona enani hambe ngaso niye esibhedlela.
Okay? Do you see that? Do you see that?
Uyakubona lokho?
Ngiyakubona kodwa
Okay.
Yes, I do, but
It's fine. Leave it there. Let's move on now. You went to the hospital and you met at the gate with a motor vehicle, and you described it as BMW.
sise asiyeke manje esibhedlela. Niyafika ke noma niyangena esibhedlela nihlangana ke nale moto oyichazile ukuthi kwakuyi BMW.
yebo.
Yes.
And then you were driven in 2 police cars, am I correct?
Nanihamba ngemoto eyi2 ezimbili zamaphoyisa.
Because it was 4 of you at the crime scene, you remember?
Uma ngabe ukhumbula kahle ke angithi nani u4. Ngabe lokho kusho ukuthi nani hamba ngemoto ezimbili ezahlukene.
2 student constable, yourselves, and Matebula. Or maybe you can tell us how did you drive? to that?
Usitshele wena ukuthi nani hamba kanjani ke.
Ngazihamba imoto eyodwa.
We were traveling in one vehicle.
Okay. And then you stood as you came across with that motor vehicle. Then who spoke to the passenger of the other vehicle?
Nase nimake ngokufakazi bakho ke bayizolo ke. Ubani ke owakhuluma uma ukhumbula kahle kubufakazi bakho bayizolo utheke kwahliswa iwindow uma ukhumbula kahle iwindow le passenger. So ubani ke kunina owakhuluma ne passenger leya ye BMW.
Noma ngasakhumbuli noma yimi noma uMathebula kodwa uye usisi waqala wakhuluma kuqala.
Although I can't remember whether it was myself or Matebula, but the lady was the first one to speak.
Who was driving your vehicle?
Well, eyeni imoto eqhutywa ubani?
I think uMathebula.
Matebula.
Okay. And then the passenger was it a passenger or a driver?
Kwaku on the other vehicle.
On the other vehicle, yes.
Kwenye imoto leyana kwakuwumshayeli noma kwakuyipassenger owayekhuluma.
Kwakumshayeli.
It was the driver.
And who was driving?
Kwakushayela abantu.
Owabe sengitshela ukuthi uKelly.
It's when he informed me that it was Kelly.
Who informed you?
Utshelwa ubani?
Lo engangisebenza naye.
My colleague.
Did you ask him, what's your name? Did you ask her, sorry, my lord, did you ask her what's your name as you were speaking to her? Before you were told by your colleague or your crew. Do you call it a crew member?
Na njengoba okhuluma naye ke ingaba wambuza wena ukuthi ubani ngaphambilini kokuthi utshelwe icolleague yakho?
Usisi wakhuluma nathi wathi uSenzo Meyiwa useshonile ulanga phakathi esibhedlela.
The lady spoke to us and said to us that Senzo Meyiwa is late. He's inside the hospital.
Exactly. Did you ask that person what is your name before he gave you that information?
Ngaphambilini ke kokuthi anitshele lokho nambuza ukuthi ubani igama lakhe.
Hey mina ngaze ngimbuze kodwa ngoba ucolleague wami wayemazi.
Did you?
I did not ask
Mina
her.
ngaze ngimbuze.
I did not ask her because my colleague knew her, but I did not ask her.
Why not? Because he related to you such a crucial information, telling you about the death of someone?
Ngani ke ngoba naku ke eninikeza manje imininingwane ebaleke kangaka enitshela ngomuntu oshonile. Kwenzeka kanjani ke ukuthi ningambuzi ukuthi ubani?
Bengisachaza la ukuthi usisi wakhuluma nathi wathini ngabaleka.
I was stopped because I was still explaining here that this lady spoke to us and what it is that she was saying.
Yeah,
but I was stopped.
He said Senzo Meyiwa had been killed, he has passed away.
Yebo.
Didn't he say so?
Wachaza nokuthi yena umama wengane yakhe.
And she went on to say that she was the mother of his child.
Yes. Did you ask her name?
Wambuza noma nambuza igama lakhe.
Hayi wabe sengihlebela kucolleague wami ukuthi hayi
Did you ask
no
him?
Then my colleague whispered to me as to who she was.
It also did not ring to your mind.
Ayizange naleyo ikufikeleke.
ukuthi ngimbuze.
To ask her.
Yes, to ask her
Yebo.
name.
Angithi ngilitholile kucolleague wami.
I've already been told by my colleague.
Besides getting that information from your colleague, from that person who was conveying such a crucial information.
Ngaphandleni kokuthi utshelwe ucolleague wakho ke ubuze nje kuyena nje. Ngoba lo muntu unikeza nje information ebaleke kangaka.
Ukuthi ngathi ngoba ngishilo ukuthi ngathi manje ngidonsekele la ngaphansi ngivalelekile ukuthi angikhona ukuchaza kahle ukuthi lapha information asinika yona ithini size singene ngaphakathi sithole umama sinikwe ubani ukuthi ubani sizomthola ngaphakathi yena uyabuya usayobeka ubhuti lo ahamba naye.
Because now I'm being stopped because I am trying to explain as to what information she gave us and what led us inside and who she referred us to someone or to the lady inside because she just said that she was just taking the gentleman away that she was traveling with. So I was trying to explain that, but I'm being stopped.
Okay, can you explain it? We want to listen to you. Yes, what did she say?
Sathi masingena kusama ngoba vele naye wayema kwavuleka amafastela emoto yakhe lo sisahamba ngayo.
Because we were driving into the hospital, we stopped because we could see that she was also stopping, and then the windows of the vehicle she was traveling in were opened. Yebo?
Wasichazela ukuthi umama wengane kaSenzo.
She informed us that she was the mother of Senzo's child.
Yes. Oh, firstly, sorry. Wasibuza ukuthi ngabe sibuya emzamo yini sifuna sathi yes sithola complaint but sibuya emzamo sizela isibhedlela manje.
She wanted to know from us whether we were coming from Zamo, and then we said yes, we were coming from Zamo. We received a complaint, and now we are coming to the hospital.
Wasesichazela ukuthi yena umama wengane kaSenzo.
She then informed us that she was the mother of Senzo's child.
uSenzo la ngaphakathi ushonile.
Senzo is inside and that he had passed away.
Kodwa sabuza kathini ukuthi ucolleague wami wabuza uye wakhuluma naye wambuza ukuthi usizothola abantu ozokhuluma ngoba uphuma wathi no sizothola umama masingafike sicele umama umakhumalo ngaphakathi.
Then my colleague wanted to know from her, seeing that you are now driving out, who are we going to find inside to be able to speak to? She then said that you will be able to get my mother and speak to her.
Washo wathi kodwa naye uyabuya usahambise ubhuti lo ayehamba naye.
She also informed us that she would be coming back. She was just taking the gentleman away that she was traveling with.
Sase siyangena ngaphakathi.
And then that's how we went inside.
Okay. Can you answer my question now?
Ngawuphendula ke manje umbuzo wami.
Did you ask the name, the particulars of that person who conveyed that information to you?
Manje nangu ke lo muntu ke usenitshela ke lokhu anitshela kona ke ngaba nambuza yini ukuthi uwubani?
Hayi mina ngimibuzanga.
I didn't ask her.
Okay, let's move on. You proceeded inside the hospital and you met with Makhumalo.
Nange
That's all?
ngaphakathi esibhedlela nahlangana naye uMakhumalo.
Saqala sahlangana no nurse.
The first person that we met was the nurse.
Okay, forget about the nurse. I want Makhumalo. You met with Makhumalo.
Asikhohlwe ke ngonesi nahlangana noMakhumalo. Yes.
Who introduced Makhumalo to you?
Ubani owachaza uMakhumalo kunina?
Mahlangana ne nurse sacela ukuthi ubani ofike family member uMakhumalo sabuza wathi ayinamba yibo laba kune passage nesitulo lapho wasikhombisa.
We wanted to know from the nurse as to who is Makhumalo, family member, and then she pointed us to them because there was a passage and a chair or a seat there.
And then you talked to her.
Nakhuluma naye.
Yebo.
Yes.
Did she introduce herself?
Wayichaza yena kunina?
Yebo asho ukuthi uyu uMakhumalo.
Yes, she did. She introduced herself as Makhumalo.
Okay, what else did she say?
Kupho kunya wakusho?
Khona sibedlela.
At the hospital.
After introducing herself to
Emuva
you,
kokuthi eyichazile ke kunini ukuthi ubani, kupho kunya wakusho?
Oh, sabe sesimcela thina ukuthi sizocela ukubuyela naye le emumva esinini. Asichazele ukuthi kwenzakaleni.
We then made a request to her that we would like to go back to the scene with her so that she could explain to us as to what happened.
continue.
Ungaqhubeka.
Hayi mase sihamba ke endleleni wayesichazela ukuthi ngathi kungene amadoda amabili phethe isibhamu. Anome yodwa nephethe isibhamu.
And as we were traveling, my lord, that's when he then conveyed to us that two men entered. They were having firearms, or one of them was having a firearm.
Angisena siqiniseke ukuthi bababili babephethe ibhamu oyedwa angisakhumbuli.
No, I'm not certain anymore whether both were having firearms or only one of them had a firearm.
And you did not record what Makhumalo related to you anywhere?
Lokhu ayenitshela kona ke uMakhumalo anizange nikubhale phansi.
Angithi wayezofika athathwe ama detective statement as a witness yena.
The detectives were going to take statements from her as a witness.
I'm not talking about detectives here. You are talking to Makhumalo. You are telling this court you can't recall what exactly did Makhumalo say to you. I am asking you, didn't you record what Makhumalo said to you when you were busy talking? Forget about detectives. I'm talking about you.
Ngicela ke sikhohlwe noma ukhohlwe ke ngama detectives ngoba manje angithi uthi niyahamba nibuyela kwisini. Uyanitshela ke lokho anitshela khona ke. So akuthi ukuthi njengoba nitshela nje anibhali phansi nina lokho anitshela khona.
Kukhona okunye kwakhe sasibhala ma pocket book wethu hayi ukuthi sizokubhala kwi full scope.
There were some information that we were writing down, or there was some information that we wrote down in our pocket books, but not to say that we were writing that on a page.
Okay. The pocket book that is nowhere to be found now.
Lena sikhuluma ngale pocket book ke engatholakali manje.
Yiyo kahle.
That's correct.
Okay. After that, what happened? We have now discussed with Makhumalo.
Kwenzekile ke lokho kwasekuthini ke.
Safika ke endlini ke. Masingena endlini. Singena nje eminyango washo ukuthi angazi bangene khona lapha eminyango lamadoda anoma thatha i-cellphone or ama-cellphone. Then adubula ke.
Okay. We then went into the house, and then that's when she conveyed to us that those men entered the house. I don't know whether she said that they took a cell phone or cell phones, and then they fired.
Okay. But you were a police officer attending the crime scene. You don't know what was reported to you. You don't know whether two people fired shots. You don't know whether the cell phone was also taken or not.
Kulokho sitshela khona ke ukuthi nani ngamaphoyisa ke alaphayana anazi noma ukuthi amadoda amabili adubula anazi noma ukuthi kwathathwa ama cell phones futhi ke akukhumbuli nje nalokho konke enakutshelwa.
Angisho ukuthi angazi.
I didn't say I don't know.
What did you say?
Uthenik.
Uthe kwangena amadoda amabili.
I said
La ngasakhumbula khona ukuthi omabili naye ephethe ibhamu ngeke ngikhumbule into ka-2014.
I said that she said 2 men entered, but what I did not remember is that whether both were carrying firearms.
So you-
I'm unable to remember something that happened way back in 2014.
So you can't recall.
Awukhumbuli.
You can't recall because it took place long time ago.
Uthi ke awukhumbuli ngoba kwenzeka kudala.
Angithi lamele ngisho engikukhumbulayo, angidedele ngisho engikukhumbulayo, engingakukhumbuli okusho ukuthi i-witness ezayo mayikufaka izobe ikufakile. Kodwa kumele angidedele ngisho engikukhumbulayo mina. Angizukwazi ukuthi kwangena amadoda amabili ephethe ibhamu amabili. Okusho ukuthi nginesiqiniseko salento engiyikhulumayo.
I'm unable to say that 2 men entered and both of them were carrying firearms. That would then mean that I'm certain about what I'm saying, but I'm also requesting that you allow me to say that which I can recall. What I don't recall, maybe the next witness will be able to come and confirm that, but I'm
Yeah.
only saying what I can recall.
But I want you to confirm this. You cannot recall whether Makumalo said the cell phone was taken or not because it transpired long time ago. You can't recall now.
Engikushoyo kuwena ke ukuthi uthi awukhumbuli noma uMakhumalo wathi kwathathwa i-cellphone ngoba lokhu kwenzeka kudala.
Yathatha i-cellphone.
A cell phone was taken.
Okay. So you recall now.
Manje uyakhumbula ke.
I think you're jumping onto two issues at the same time. There was about not remembering whether 2 of the guys were wielding firearms.
Yes, my lord.
And now the issue of the cell phone came from nowhere. I think it will confuse the witness. You said you cannot recall whether both intruders wielded firearms, not so.
Uthe awukhumbuli ke noma bobabili ke bephethe ibhamu angithi.
Yebo yilokho engeke ngingaba nesiqiniseko sakho kodwa ukhona owayephethe isibhamu ukuthi bobabili babephethe ibhamu oyedwa wabo angisaphumi kodwa ukhona owayephethe isibhamu.
What I can't remember, my lord, is that yes, there was someone who had a firearm, but as to whether both were having a firearms, I can't remember that. But what I do know is that yes, there was a firearm.
And what do you remember about the cell phone?
Ukhumbulani ke nge-cell phone?
Yeah, yathatha i-cellphone.
A cell phone was taken.
Thank you, my lord.
Yes.
Now, when you arrive now at the scene,
Yes.
did you find the same person you had spoken to at the hospital who was driving the motor vehicle that you met at the gate?
Manje ke nibuyile ke nyabuya ke manje esibhedlela nila endlini. Lo yamuntu ke lo enahlangana naye ke egate ningena nina ephuma yena ke ehamba ngale ya BMW. Ingabe nahlangana naye yini uma senibuya ke manje okwesibili nibuyele endlini? No, we didn't find her.
Okay. Did you enter inside the house?
Nangena ngaphakathi endlini.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was she not there?
Wayengekho lapha.
Hayi wayengekho.
No, she wasn't there.
Were there any other people?
Babe khona abanye abantu.
Ngaphandle babekhona ababe mphakathi.
Yes, there were members of the community outside, yes.
The house, did you enter inside the house?
Ngaphakathi endlini nangena.
Yebo sangena.
Yes, we did.
Were there any people inside the house when
Babe-
you arrived? When you entered inside the house?
Ngenkathi enangena ngayo ke endlini babe khona abantu nabafica phakathi endlini.
Cha.
No.
And then let's move on to the time now when you say a photographer was summoned. Was he summoned by yourself? Do you know who summoned the photographer?
Ingaba uyazi ke sesiya manje la khona kwabizwa khona ke i-photographer. Yinini enambiza noma uyazi ukuthi ubani wabiza i-photographer?
Akusho ukuthi thina siyasicela i-CSC sibizele siyasicela e-police station sibizele i-photographer.
We will make a request to the CSC or the police station to call the photographer.
So you don't know who summoned the photographer?
Ngamanye amagama awazi ukuthi ubani wayo owayebiza.
Owayese-CSC sakhuluma naye kwaku warrant officer Maphafu.
The person who was at the CSC that we spoke to was Warrant Officer Maphafu.
And it's also correct that Constable Mosia
Warrant
arrived.
officer,
Sorry, my lord.
Mapafu ne?
Yes, yebo maphafu.
yes.
And it is your evidence also that Constable Mosia arrived first before Brigadier Ndlovu.
Ubufakazi bakho ke bokuthi uMusia uyena wafika qala kuno Brigadier Ndlovu.
Yebo.
Yes.
So when Constable Mosia testified that he arrived at the scene and then he found Brigadier Ndlovu already at the crime scene, that is not correct.
Uma ngabe ke koba ubufakazi uSergeant Musia yena ethi wathi uma ngabe efika yena lapha kwisini wamfica elapho uBrigadier Ndlovu kusho ukuthi akusilona iqiniso leli elikhulunywa uMsia.
Hayi thina kwafika qala uMsiya kithi. Brigadier Ndlovu walandela uMsiya.
According to us, Musia arrived first and Brigadier Ndlovu followed after Musia.
Yeah, so that is not correct.
Kusho ukuthi lokho okushiwo uMsia akusilona iqiniso.
Yes.
It's not correct.
Hayi phakamisa ukukhulumela phezulu futhi.
Hayi angazi ukuthi wayekuthatha phi yena wafika qala.
I don't know where he took it or he got it from when he says he arrived first.
But it's not so.
Kusho ukuthi akukho kanjalo.
Yebo akukho kanjalo.
That's correct.
Okay. And you said there is an officer by the name of Captain Zwane who came and he was in charge of the crime scene. Did you say that?
Ushilo ke nokuthi kwase kufika ke uCaptain Zawane kwaba uyena ke umuntu oba in charge yesini.
Yebo kwakuyena owayemkhulu khona.
That is correct, he was the senior.
Okay.
Yes.
And you also say, because Captain Zwane had already shown Mosia everything, we then decided to leave Big Bosses. That was your evidence yesterday, if I'm correct.
Uma ngizwe kahle ke ukuthi ke uthe izolo ke ngoba ke uZwane wayesemtshengise noma esemkhombise konke